Hi friends, welcome to this week's Bean and Shivs video. Today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the new Apple TV. The fourth generation Apple TV, or the new Apple TV, Apple's calling it, is the first major redesign since the last generation, which featured 1080p playback. The fourth generation Apple TV is a bit taller and more expensive compared to the previous model. It adds a Siri remote for voice control, a powerful dual-core A8 processor, 2GB of RAM, Bluetooth 4.0, and just like the previous generations, it has an IR receiver. It's boring, but it's supposed to be. It's intended to fade away. It's missing 4K support, which is funny because the new Apple TV is the future of television, or at least that's what Apple's calling it. 4K seems to be the next move for television, so until there's more 4K content available, the fact that the future streaming box of tomorrow is missing 4K support might not even matter. The real shining new features are tvOS and the new Siri remote. The Siri remote features a glass touchpad for commands such as tapping, swiping or scrubbing through content, and navigation such as up, down, left, or right. It has dual microphones for voice control, one on the front and one on the back. The remote connects to the TV over Bluetooth and has an infrared blaster to control your TV's volume. The one thing that it doesn't have is a dedicated power button, which means that if you have an older TV or receiver that doesn't support HDMI 1.4, you're gonna have to use a second remote just to turn things on or off. It's charged via lightning cable located on the bottom of the remote, which closely resembles the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. There's also an accelerometer and gyroscope built in, which performs well when playing games. Within this package for $149, try not to expect game console rivaling performance. So what's with all the excitement over the new tvOS? At first glance, it's familiar. It closely resembles the previous OS, except it's grayish white instead of black. It seems more simplistic without all the clutter from the pre-installed apps. But Apple isn't trying to push the user interface, because after all, you're meant to interact with it, using Siri, downloading apps, and the Siri remote. Talking to Siri is Apple's big push. However, Siri on the Apple TV isn't the same Siri from your iPhone. Sure, you can still ask Siri essential questions about your stocks, various sports questions, or questions like, what's the weather? Or what's the time? Or you can even ask Siri various questions about movies and TV shows. My personal favorite is the feature, What Did They Say?, which rewinds the movie or TV show back a few seconds and enables captions for a short period of time, so you can tell exactly what they just said.
Do you know how to get in touch with Ian?
Excuse me?
But Siri isn't properly integrated, so you can't ask Siri questions about your calendar, contacts, or even play music. In fact, Siri can't control music at all. You ask her something like, play Adele's new song, and she responds with something like, sorry, I cannot control Apple Music, which is a huge oversight considering Apple Music has been the major push of Apple lately. Taking advantage of the new remote is the whole point. The entire future of the Apple TV rests on opening the App Store up to developers for new tvOS apps and games. However, this first release of apps is pretty lame. Some apps like Periscope feel like a blown-up iPhone app where you're just projecting your phone. It's hard to see why apps like Zillow and Gilt are better when they're 10 feet away from you. In my opinion, the best app right now is the QVC app because it actually mixes live television with interactive content where you can just purchase their advertised material right from your television. After all, isn't that the whole point? Mixing interactive content with live TV to create the future of television? Another interesting feature is playing games. Even though some may feel like you're playing blown-up iPhone apps, I love playing Crossy Road in Asphalt 8. Playing Crossy Road on such a huge screen is enjoyable, and Asphalt 8 really makes use of the gyroscope within the Siri remote, and it transforms it into a steering wheel. The graphics aren't going to rival a PlayStation or Xbox, but that's not the point. These games are just a nice addition to an entertainment box. Now, I'm not saying you should drop everything and go buy the new Apple TV. If you were thinking about purchasing a streaming box, the Apple TV is the best one available on the market. However, if you don't need one, I'd wait. I'd wait for a release with more apps from developers, 4K support, and a bigger push from Apple that truly leads the Apple TV into the future of television.